It has just gone 2 o'clock. It is the 27th of November 2020, and this is the Standing Committee on Transport and Public Works. My name is Dalen Mitchell, and I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee. Members, can I please ask that you introduce yourself for the record?
Good morning, Chair. This is Derek America, a member of the Standing Committee. Good afternoon, Chair. Sorry.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and the rest of the committee and other attendees. I'm Lulama Mvimbi.
Goedemiddag. Voorzitter, Rodriguez van der Westijn, lid van die komitee.
Good afternoon, all members. Members, I have received an apology from Honourable Heron, so I'm officially tabling his apology. Are there any further apologies? No further apologies. Minister and HOD, in the interest of time, because we have only scheduled it for an hour, this engagement, I'm not going to go through each member of the department that's part of this discussion. If the person, HOD through you, if the person needs to respond to a question posed, I will then allow that person to introduce him or her before answering the questions. Members, we are here today to deliberate on vote 10 in the schedule to the Western Cape Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill B7 of 2020. Minister, I'm going to hand over straight to you if you have any introductory remarks.
Chairperson, thank you very much, and good afternoon to the Standing Committee members, and good afternoon to my officials. Chairperson, without further ado, I will take a minute or two as my opening remarks in the interest of time. This adjustment has been very, very difficult for us as the department. As you are aware, Chair and members, that it's happening under unusual circumstances. As the department, we still have to prepare for the health response in terms of the infrastructure. We are hearing again that there's resurgence, which places us really in a very difficult, situation, because it means that we might need to prepare additional infrastructure again. And we are experiencing the budget cuts. And I must tell you, Chair and members, that we had to go through a very painful exercise of reprioritizing. And it was very difficult to decide what to cut and what to leave, given the fact that even the future is very uncertain, even within the available resources that we have. We know that there are no guarantees for the future, given this resurgent, and also given the fact that we've just been downgraded, which means even the indicative figures that we are given as the department in terms of the outer years might not be a true reflection of what we are going to get. And Chair, as you know, that in this department, you can't just plan for 1 year. You need to plan for multiple years, because we are an infrastructure department. So this places us, places us in a very difficult condition, as I said. And I must thank the team under HOD Gooch that has done an extensive work to try and really, juggle the balls around in terms of reprioritization. But Chair, just to say that we are not out of the woods yet, because the uncertainty that I'm talking about is our biggest concern, and we might need to revise and reprioritize again in future, given the picture that I've just painted. So without further ado, Chair, I will now hand over to the HOD.
Thank you, Minister. HOD, a warm welcome to you and your team. I'm going to hand over to you.
Chairperson, thank you very much, and good afternoon to the members of the committee and to the MEC, and thank you very much for the sentiments. With your permission, Chair, we have put together probably about 4 slides, if you don't mind, just to try to direct the committee's attention in a number of areas to cover the core components of the adjustments for vote 10. Would you mind if I share the presentation and take the committee through it briefly?
No, that will be in order. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then let me just do that and make sure. Are you able to see the presentation, Chair?
Yes, we are indeed. Members,
Thank
are
you,
there anyone that's not able to see the presentation?
It's not on my screen, Chair.
Not on your screen.
But that's normally a sign that I need to leave and rejoin, it seems.
Okay, we'll give you a minute or two to leave and rejoin. Honourable America, can you see it?
All good on my side. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Mvimbi.
Honorable Chairperson?
Yes, sir.
Yes, no, I can see.
You can see. And Honourable Van der Westhuizen, can you see the presentation now?
I'm back in and it's on my screen. Thank you very much for your indulgence.
Thank you very much. HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So as I say, it's not lengthy. I don't want to take up the entire time on a presentation, but to try and give you the overview, the summary of it. The overall allocation for our vote is being decreased by around about 4%. It's 354.581 million from the 8.9 billion to just shy of 8.6 billion. And within that, the decreases, the core areas in terms of the decreases are linked to the compensation of employees, which you would have seen across a number of the votes and clearly presented by the MEC of Finance. Then, because we are anticipating an under recovery in the motor vehicle license fees as a result of the lockdown, and members might recall the regulations that allowed later renewal of the motor vehicle license fees, we are estimating an under recovery in the region of 80 million. And as a result, we have to reduce our expenditure levels because our budget vote is made up of the revenue from an equitable share point of view, plus also what we anticipate to collect through the motor vehicle license fees and others. Then what we are also doing is surrendering what we anticipate to be underspending in terms of the Q&I funds. Members will recall in the first adjustments budget that we were allocated funds from the Provincial Treasury for quarantine and isolation facilities in response to COVID. We are not anticipating utilizing the full allocation and have asked that that be reallocated to us in the next financial year, given particularly what we're seeing with the ongoing responses required for COVID. Then we are anticipating also, given the lockdown, the fact that some of our contractors couldn't operate for some time, a reduced spending on roads infrastructure and requesting that that funding be reallocated next year. And then the same with the earmarked allocation for the child and youth care centres. So that is reallocated next year as well. What we have done is try to strengthen some response for the public employment programs. There's 2 aspects. One that's come from national, from the Provincial Roads Maintenance Grant, an additional allocation of just over 61 million, specifically focused on the employment side. And I trust the committee would also understand that receiving funding so late in the year when it's not necessarily planned in an infrastructure environment is relatively difficult to have to rejig the system to respond, but that's what the team are busy working on at the moment. And then we have an internal reprioritization of 23 million as well, focused on a public employment program for the job creation and that kind of alleviation that's required now. Overall, across the vote, you would see a decrease in the infrastructure allocation, and I've already mentioned the first point that the construction activities could not take place during the initial hard lockdown periods. It also meant that a number of the contractors took a while to get back up and running, given the new regulations around PPE, getting their sites compliant, the workplace plans, requirements from the Department of Labour and others. So that has meant a slower than what would have normally been the case expenditure. And then there were a number of scoping reports and the tender documentation that wasn't concluded, particularly because some consultants had shut down and weren't able to visit kind of project sites and others. Then we have also, you will see some substantial shifts in the detail in the adjustments budget because of the road infrastructure branch's new organizational structure that was brought in and given effect to from the 1st of April. It's meant that we've had to shift expenditure between different categories and different items. It's all still staying within roads, but it's just internal shifting and adjustments. Then we have also made provision as a result of reprioritization internally to respond for the funding required for the integrated transport hub that members would be well aware of and that you've seen and experienced, and also understand that that particularly was something we could rely on through our COVID responses, and that's been shared with this committee before. The GIPTN, as well as in the public transport operations grant, there were additional costs in response as a result of our COVID response, and also on the GIPTN because national government have reduced their grant allocation. Chairperson, the following two slides is really a synopsis, I suppose, of the detail that you find in the adjustments estimate. And you can start to see some of the numbers that I have been referring to. You'll see at the top line, we started out originally with the department's original budget for 2020-21 of 8.8 billion, and through the first adjustments, the department was given an additional 126 million. That then took us to the 8.9. Now in the second adjustments budget, we are looking to reduce it by 354.5 million. And within that, you see the categories, the 80 million reduction on the motor vehicle license fee revenue side, then the 200 million for the Q&I, so that's a substantial portion, as you can see. An allocation into Roads Infrastructure Program 3 of the 61.3 million from the road maintenance grant from National. And then there are shifts into the vote from other votes across the province. You'll see in response to the hotspot strategy, we received very positive feedback from starting a program and responding to communities which asked for bicycles to be allocated for their response in support of COVID, for the distribution of food from some of the soup kitchens to people who are unable to actually go to collect their food at soup kitchens or at community areas. And as a result, we asked for funding from an allocation that was made through the Department of Local Government for the hotspot response from COVID. Then you'll see shifts from the Department of Health to our vote for the lease around Brackengate Field Hospital, the CTICC, which the committee would be well aware of, and then also the lease for the Hout Bay facility, which is one of their clinic facilities. Then from vote 5, from education for the office accommodation refurbishment, as well as then an upgrade for the registry in Alfred Street. So that space is able to be utilized appropriately by education. And then for the roof repair of one of the buildings where there was a fire, where one of the NGOs supported by social development was located, and they have then allocated funds for us for the repair of that roof. You'll see under the realignment, the surrendering, the 45 million that I spoke about in the previous slide for the CYCC to be allocated next year, roads infrastructure of the 155 million. And then as the committee would be aware, every adjustments budget, we access funds that are held in reserve by the Provincial Treasury for property acquisition. And we are asking to access 6.6 million for the appropriate properties. There are about 5 or 6 of them that are being acquired. In the main, for the education and health side, then you see the carry through in terms of the reduction of the compensation of employees allocations, just shy of 51 million for our vote. Then you'll see the shifting between programs. In the main, the shifting for the public transport operations grant, project management response, the Go George program, as well as then the transport hub, and where we've shifted between from savings and underspendings and other parts of the vote, as well as then minor allocations for write-off of debt. In the main for bursary obligations that weren't met. And then you'll see there the 23 million where we have shifted funds into program 2, specifically from a job creation point of view for clearing of urban and particular sites in a public employment program. Then there are 4 rollovers from the previous financial year that the Treasury acceded to, the refurbishment of the office accommodation. There are small rollovers, then the access road in Saldanha for the community day centre, and then 2 even smaller amounts linked to some roads projects out in rehab and reconstruction projects. Chair, that then gives you the outline and lands us in total on the adjusted budget for vote 10 of just shy of 8.6 billion. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much, HOD, for that presentation. Members, with that said, I'm now going to table pages 245 to 264 as per the blue book on vote 10, and then separately I'm tabling now all the annexures from pages 265 to 286. Members, you can ask your questions and you can link the annexures to your questions. I'm also going to ask that when you ask a question that you please refer to the page number in order for us to get through this this session. I see Honourable America.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, congratulations to the HOD on recognition as one of the best HODs in the country, and I'm sure she would not claim the personal credit herself, but she will attribute the success to the rest of the team. So congratulations to the rest of the team as well. Chair, I don't have many questions now. So the presentation is very helpful. It sort of summarizes all the movement of funds and the reduction of funds. So I have just 2 questions. One being on page 255, there is an amount of 455 million rand that is provision for leave gratuity. So the question that I would like to know in that regard is whether it is a normal sort of budgeted amount, or is it as a result of employees having to work remotely, thus not utilizing the leave that they would normally sort of use? And then secondly, Chair, I think the HOD responded to the 155 million rand that was sort of reduced with regard to road infrastructure, and application is being made for that amount to be rolled over. So I don't have any question with regard to that. And then lastly, if we can get just clarity in terms of the donation made by Old Mutual. Was it provision of a facility? Was it what was the nature of the donation? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable America. Honourable Mvimbi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Really, my question is just a general question. Chairperson probably might be answered by the minister, or maybe the HOD can also answer it, because it's a question I've been consistently raising, and I think I'm going to continue raising it as long as I'm serving in this committee. And I've been listening to the minister prior to the just leading to the national lekgotla on the national taxi lekgotla. He's also been talking about the provincialization of the taxi industry. He's been talking very much in favor of it, which ties very well with the subsidization of that industry. Just want to check whether, in terms of this adjustment of the budget, are there any plans to try and assist the professionalization of the taxi industry, which is also about the subsidization of that industry? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Mbimbi. Honourable van der Westhuizen.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to refer to only one aspect, and that is on page 263. In these days, we shouldn't be forfeiting income. It's on the expenditure side that we need to cut back severely as a province. And therefore, it's important to me that we try and maximize our income. Yet we are forfeiting 80 million rand for this full year in motor vehicle license collections. Now, Chair, I wonder whether the department is aware of the severity of the delays. Yes, there was a lockdown of 5 weeks during which people couldn't renew, and they received postponement of the renewal of vehicle licenses, etc. But I'm concerned about both the backlog and the frustration that it's causing amongst vehicle owners, of which we have many in this province. And I'm sorry to say, but the response that I'm getting is, yeah, the municipalities must pull up their socks. They must handle the backlogs, etc. This is also the only province where you can't renew your vehicle license at the post office. And now we're hearing that we're actually forfeiting an income, which just means, if it's going to be over the full year, that we're going to have more vehicles on the roads without valid licenses. And I know this is a budget meeting where we consider the vote, but underneath this vote, often finances tells you a story about operational efficiency. And I'm highly concerned about the loss, but also the reasons for this loss. And I would love to hear from the department, how are they going to turn the situation around, please?
Right, thank you, members. Minister, over to you and the HOD.
Thank you. The HOD will cover the rest of the questions, but because there was one question directed specifically to me by Member Mbimbi, I do want to reiterate what I've been saying here, colleagues, that as a department, we are not only supporting the professionalization of the taxi industry, but we are leading the way in terms of the initiatives to make sure that we professionalize this industry. Member Mvimbi might be aware that after the successful Red Dot initiative, we are now moving to the Blue Dot. And the Blue Dot, really, Member Mvimbi, is that the Red Dot, while the Red Dot was focusing on specific sector, which is the essential service workers, we are going to use the same lessons in terms of that initiative to apply it on the Blue Dot for the entire taxi industry and for the benefit of all the people of the Western Cape, not just the certain section of our industry or society. Where we are now, Member Mvimbi, is that already we have presented the Blue Dot to the Cabinet. It was well accepted, and the Cabinet has given us a go-ahead to pilot it. We've also presented it to the National Department of Transport, and they also love it. What we are busy with now is the identification of the areas where we need to pilot it, and also working closely with our partners in those areas. But of course, we've put conditions down to the taxi industry that one of the conditions for this Blue Dot initiative to be rolled out is that there must be peace. And I must say that I'm not happy with the constant violence that we are seeing, and as you've seen at the station deck and also Enyang. So we will be having a meeting very soon to address that. But I can tell you there's a very serious commitment from this department to make sure that we professionalize the industry. You might be aware that the minister has put a deadline of the 1st of April. We were supposed to have a MINMEC meeting yesterday to discuss the resolutions of the Lekgotla, and I can tell you that we are really hard at work as the province. But from our side, Member Vimbi, so that we can just clarify the point, we are not talking about subsidy in terms of this initiative. We are talking about incentive. We want to incentivize good behavior, the same way we've done in the Red Dot, and I think that is then will become a launching pad for us to move towards professionalization of the industry, where we'll now start talking about the subsidization, because the incentive is not really that different from the subsidy, but it works differently. And I think maybe the standing committee through you, Chair, can be able to get more feedback later and get the presentation on what we are planning to do as far as the Blue Dot initiative is concerned. Thank you very much. HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Minister, and through you, Chair, to pick up on some of the responses. First of all, just thank you very much to Member America. You're quite right. The awards for the department are really on the back of an incredible team that we have in this department. So I do need to acknowledge every single one of the staff members of this organization who work every day to do the best that they can and improve people's lives. The question that was posed around the 455,000 Rand, I must just correct, I think maybe it was potentially a misstatement, but you nearly gave me a heart attack through your chair to Member America when you said 455 million for leave gratuity. I just had a quick check that the number was correct, 455,000. And Chair, it is for when members leave. It's not for the fact that somebody just hasn't taken their leave in terms of payout that you've got to the end of a particular year and so on. So we do, because it's unknown potentially who's going to be retiring, maybe they retire early, slightly earlier than what we would be looking at, or that somebody resigns and then they've got capped leave in some instances, and that is then paid out in terms of a leave gratuity. So it's not specific necessarily for, it's certainly not because somebody didn't take their leave and then they claimed it at the end of the calendar year. The question about the Old Mutual donation and the nature of that was the facility. You might have seen it referenced in the press as a quarantine and isolation facility. The Old Mutual took one of their areas in Pinelands, at the Pines Club area of Old Mutual, and they kitted it out and made it, I think, a nice kind of homely type of place, painted it, provided beds and all sorts of things. as a quarantine and isolation facility. I think in that instance it's actually been used for isolation purposes, because there are a number of rooms with more than one bed in them, and that therefore makes it utilization for an isolation facility. The Department of Health assisted and provided the necessary kind of health oversight, and then we had to respond with the kind of facilities management and catering, etc. But the Old Mutual then provided that facility. Then I think the Minister has already responded on the Blue Dot response and approach in the project for the department. Then potentially to come to the question around the income, through you, Chair, to Member van der Westhuizen. In this instance, it's not that we are willingly foregoing income. What this number is that's anticipated to not be recouped. Originally, when the National Department made adjustments on the eNatus system, so you might recall, because of the lockdown period, and then through the regulations, they provided an extended time frame for which people could renew their licenses for the time period when the licenses expired during the lockdown. And what occurred in their initial programming of the system is that they did not provide for you to pay your license fee, which was due and payable, let's say, in April. And when you paid it in July, you would normally then be paying the full year, plus then, that you had to pay, plus then a couple of months to take you through to the July month. The RTMC didn't program the system to capture those months worth of revenue. So if you then went and renewed your license, you only paid the single year's payment, not the months that you have lost. So there is anticipated to be a reduction in the revenue collection on that side. Then, as far as making it easy for people to renew, I need to indicate that our province and Mpumalanga are the two provinces that don't utilize the South African Post Office. However, we have been in negotiations with the South African Post Office for putting in place an agreement for people to be able to renew at the Post Office. And that particular agreement, we have a draft SLA, and that is now being negotiated specifically in terms of the fees that they are wanting to charge for us using them as an agent to allow you to renew your license. The RTMC, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, members might be aware, has also been going through a process of designing and formulating an online renewal module of the Natus system, and the RTMC is close to completing that. We are also going through a process of finalizing the fees that would be payable for that, and hopefully we're trying to get that particular agreement, I believe, with Legal Services Concurrence finalized in the next week or so. At the same time, I do understand the frustration from the municipal licensing authorities and the point that's raised. Key thing that we are experiencing and are likely to experience through your chair as the infections rise is the need to close down the centres, to decontaminate when they find that there's been an infection in terms of staffing and in the surrounds, and that's causing quite a lot of stop-start of the service offering through the municipalities. But we are hoping that the online system certainly would be able to bring about a better turnaround. I also, just perhaps to try to further put Member van der Westhuizen's mind at ease, some months ago, when we started looking at the adjustments process, we were originally anticipating a potential undercollection in the region of 250 million rand, based upon the numbers that we were seeing at that point in terms of the revenue. So I must say that providing for an undercollection of 80 million at this point to lower, and therefore lowering our expenditure levels, it's clearly not ideal, but certainly is a far better situation than what we had and what we were anticipating a couple of months ago. We have seen a substantial increase in the collections month by month as we've been going, but we have decided through this adjustments process, through you, Chair, that I wanted to take a more cautious approach and not leave the funds in terms of the expenditure level being higher, rather push as much as we can to collect the revenue. That will mean that we over collect on the revenue target and then request the Treasury to allocate those funds in the years across the MTEF. So instead of putting it in and then if we fall short at the end of the year, having to suddenly reduce our expenditure. So I decided to be a little bit more cautious in this particular instance. I think that covers it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, HOD. Members, are there any questions of clarity? Honourable America. Honourable America, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, Chair. I'd like to apologize for misreading the leave gratuity on page 255. I must admit at that stage I didn't have my glasses with me, so it is not intended to mislead anybody. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Members, are there any further questions? Going once, going twice, going thrice. No further question from the members. I just need to state, because this is a public meeting, I'm going to allow, if there's any inputs from members of the public for questions of clarity on the adjustment budget. All right, no, there's no indication that there's any input from members of the public. With that being said, I'm going to allow HOD and Minister, if you have any closing remarks, because we've come to the end of this deliberation.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. I don't have anything more to say beside the opening remarks that I gave, just to say that we are really expecting tough times ahead, and the committee members must just bear that in mind. We might be, coming back time and again with changes in what we've presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. HOD.
Just to echo the Minister's sentiments and to thank the committee for your support and understanding through some of these difficult times. It really is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then from my side, on behalf of the members, Minister and HOD and the team, thank you very much for the engagement today. Thank you for the hard work and for navigating through this very difficult time as the department. You are more than welcome to leave now, because the members will now remain behind to conclude committee administration.
Baie dankie voorsitter, geniet jou naweek.
Baie dankie, Minister. U ook.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, members, we've now come to the point where the vote has been deliberated. We've asked questions of clarity, and now I need to put the question to the committee if we are in agreement to support or not support the vote. Honourable America and then Honourable van der Westhuizen. Honourable America.
Sorry, Chair. Thanks a lot. Chair, from the input from the Minister and the HOD, it provided clarity in these very difficult circumstances to effectively present a budget that's being substantially reduced to cater for the needs of our people. Notwithstanding that, I think, in my view, that they have done a fairly good job with regard to catering for the needs. And therefore, I would propose that we support this vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable America. I saw Honourable van der Westhuizen.
I will second that proposal, Chair, that we support the vote.
Thank you, Honourable van der Westhuizen. All right, members, in that case, Honourable Mvimbi, is that your hand?
100%. Thank you very much. Taking note of the proposal from the and the support from the two honourable members, but I would like to exercise Rule 90 of the Rules of Order, not to support the budget.
Okay, can I then ask the procedural officer if you can please put onto the screen the draft report for adoption?
Chairperson, it's on the screen. Can you see it?
I can see it. Members, just with your indulgence, I'm just going to read it into the record. The report of the Standing Committee on Transport and Public Works on Vote 10, Transport and Public Works, in the schedule to the Western Cape Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill B7 of 2020, dated 27th of November 2020 as follows. The Standing Committee on Transport and Public Works, having deliberated on the subject of Vote 10, Transport and Public Works, in the schedule to the Western Cape Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill B7 of 2020, referred to the committee in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed its minority view that it does not support the vote. Is that a true reflection of this committee report? And if so, can I get a proposer and a seconder for adoption? I see Honourable Mvimbi.
The report is supported.
Thank you very much. Honourable America.
I second that motion, Chair.
Thank you very much. The committee report is therefore duly adopted. Members, that brings us to the end of this meeting. Thank you very much for keeping you within the timelines, and thank you for the manner in which we could deliberate as always. From my side, thank you to the procedural officers and senior procedural officer and ICT for making this meeting run as smoothly as it did. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.